Real people, real cases. This is Verdict Watch.
So, on the record, in the matter of the state of Michigan, oops, I need the file, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
I need the file for Mr. Tim.
Right. You have it.
Company, huh? Get the company for the hour.
Sorry. Thank you, Chef.
All right, we are on the record in the matter of the state of Michigan versus Daniel Tim, 25179. An appearance for the people, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. This is Gunnar Mather, the people, P number 87297.
Thank you.
Elliot Margolis, P28078, on behalf of Daniel Tim, who's sitting to my right. State your name, please.
Daniel Tim.
Okay, thank you. Jimmy, has been scheduled for the preliminary examination in this matter. Are there any preliminary matters that we need to address?
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, any,
Or I would just move to sequester any additional witnesses, other than the,
Yes, we have our first witness, Mr. Kazeca, and then we have two officers who will be testifying, so they can exit for now.
okay, and is there an exception for the OIC?
Yes, Your Honor.
Court will note mutual sequestration order, and if anybody is watching on live stream that would be expected to testify, they would stop watching immediately. Okay, and any exhibits?
no, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor. There's going to be two videos that I can play on Zoom, hopefully.
Okay, are they stipulated to?
It's the camera video. It's just a camera video.
Is that what they will have?
Yeah, it's like inside the store and outside the store. Inside the store and outside the store.
Game on camera. You watch the camera. You want to watch the camera? What do we stipulate to? That's a guy on camera. Okay, you don't have a problem with me stipulating them. I will stipulate.
Okay. So we stipulate two. So the first video, Your Honor, will be the Ace, I think it's the Jerry's Ace Hardware's. The first video will be on the inside of the store. And then the second video will be the outside store. The parking lot of the store, right? Like following what happened from the inside.
Okay, so that's people's exhibit 1 is inside the store?
Inside the store, 2 is outside the store.
Okay, those are stipulated to for purposes of the exam, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Mr. Margolis?
For purposes of the exam only, Judge. That's
Okay.
correct.
All right, and the court will admit those exhibits. Okay, the people may call their first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Richard Kazeca. Is that right?
Good afternoon. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. If you can please have a seat. You can go as close to the microphone as possible. And if you can please state and spell your first and last names for the record.
Richard Kazeca.
Okay, can, a little bit closer so we can hear you a little bit better, please. Can you spell your first and last names, please, sir?
Richard Kazeca.
Can you spell that?
Richard, R-A-C-H-A-R-D, Kazeca, K-A-S-Z-Y-C-A.
Okay, thank you. All right, you may proceed, counsel.
I'm going to take you back to the date of February 5th, 2025. Do you remember that day?
Yeah.
Okay. On that day, were you at the address of 2245 4th Street, City of Wyandotte, County of Illinois?
Yes.
What's at this location?
It's a hardware store.
Do you know the title of the store?
Jerry's Ace.
And what were you doing there that day?
I work, I'm a manager.
So you're employed there?
Yes,
How long have you been employed there?
15 years.
And you're a manager?
Yeah.
Okay, and as a manager, do you have authority over the merchandise that's sold?
Yeah.
So did anything happen on that day, February 5th, at the location of 2245 4th Street? Did anything happen that day at that location that brings us into court today?
Yes.
All right, and so one short sentence, can you tell me how it began?
Customer came in. I asked him if he needed some help. He said no. And a few minutes later, I see him out going by the front door with a box in his hand.
Okay. All right, I'll stop you right there. So, you saw this individual, do you recognize him in the courtroom today?
Yeah.
Okay, can you please point to him and identify an article of clothing?
And over there, I went,
Can you identify an article of clothing?
blue. So we blue.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness identified the defendant.
Okay, anything for the record, Mr. Margolis?
Nothing, Judge.
Okay, the record will still reflect that the defendant has been identified.
So you saw the defendant and you spoke to him, right?
At first,
At first, and what did you say?
can I help you?
Okay, and did he respond?
Just the same, no.
Okay. And so then what happened after that?
2 minutes later, just happened to see him by the front door. He had a big box in his hand, and he just left.
Okay. And did he pass all points of purchase?
Yes, he did.
Okay, did he ever pay for anything?
No.
Okay. And so he exited the store?
Pardon?
The defendant exited the store?
Yeah,
Okay, let's talk about this, you said it was a box, what kind of box?
it was a big tall red box.
Okay, do you know if anything was, do you know like what that box is?
Not at the moment. Not until later.
Not until later, okay, did you, for the sake of this, so what was this box? What was inside this box?
It was a chainsaw.
Okay, chainsaw, do you know what, brand?
So Milwaukee,
Okay, and is this sold by your store?
yes.
Okay. And do you recall the price of this?
Later, we found it was $349.
And so upon seeing this, observing him walk out the store with the box with the chainsaw in it, what did you do?
I followed after him.
Okay. And followed up after him where?
Into the parking lot.
Okay. And what happened there?
I was heading into a vehicle, and I told him, hey, stop.
Okay. And let's talk about this vehicle first. Do you recall what kind of vehicle it was?
Seemed like a minivan.
Okay. Do you recall the colors?
Greenish, bluish,
You said bluish greenish?
something like that.
Okay. And so you said he went towards the van?
Yes,
Okay. What side?
passenger side.
Passenger. Okay. What, did he enter the car?
Pardon?
Did he enter the van?
Yes.
Okay. And, so, was it the front passenger?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you spoke to him, did he ever respond to you?
No,
Okay. And, so did you ever like personally make contact with him?
yeah, I
Okay.
got up close.
You got him close?
Okay.
Okay. Was the car door shut or was it open?
It was open.
Okay. And was he seated in the vehicle?
He was just getting into it.
Okay. And so you made contact with him. What did you describe this contact?
Well, after he threw his chainsaw in the back, he sat, and I was trying to reach him, and then he was pushing me away with his foot.
Okay. So his foot forcefully made contact with you?
Yes,
Okay.
with his foot.
And so what happened after that?
Then he kind of said, go, let's go.
Okay, so go, let's go. So was there anybody else in
Yeah, we
the,
had a driver,
the driver? Okay, so from what you could see, how many occupants were in the vehicle?
just the driver and him.
Okay, all right, can you describe the driver for me? Male, female?
It was a female.
Okay. And so this, when you said this foot made contact with you?
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of action was it? Like what kind of motion was he making at you?
He just pushed me away with his foot.
Okay, and that made physical contact?
Contact.
Okay. And so what happened after that?
Then when he said, go, the drivers started putting the vehicle in reverse. So the van was coming, at me with the door.
Mhm.
So I had to kind of swing away
Okay, so I just want to make it kind of clear here. So the door that I'm saying that he was on the front passenger side, his door was open. Were you in like the path? So it's reversing. So were you in the pathway? Like had you not moved, would you have been hit by the door?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, did the door ever make contact with you when backing up?
a little bit as I got out of the way.
Okay. And did the vehicle get away?
Yes,
Okay. All right. And were you injured at all from this?
a little bit.
Okay. You
The
scratched
door hit me and scratched me a little.
the door hit you and scratched you? Okay. And was there any other damages suffered?
Not on me.
Okay. What about, was there any property on the lot that was?
Yeah, when they left, my car parked right there and they hit my bumper.
Okay, so your car was, this vehicle struck your own car?
Yes.
Okay, your own car was parked in this parking lot? Okay. And, let's see. Now, does this Jerry's Ace Hardware, does it have any security footage?
Yes.
Okay, and does it capture both indoor and outdoor?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if those cameras caught this incident?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And if I showed you those videos today, would you recognize them?
Yeah.
Okay, so your Honor, the people pose, well, actually, we already stipulated to it, but so the people are going to show exhibit 1 followed by exhibit 2.
Okay,
I'm gonna connect to the, I think I'm already on the Zoom. I just want to make sure that everything's set, so I need a minute. I believe I'm on the screen now. Okay. Okay.
Doesn't matter who pushed it. The process comes in.
is there sound or no sound?
No, there's no sound.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just gonna show you kind of a screen cap right here. Do you recognize this still shot right here?
Yes.
Okay, all right, and do you recognize anybody in the, these two people in the camera right here?
Yes,
Okay.
my coworker.
Your coworker, okay. So that's your coworker who's at the cash register, and then who is that you on the
Yes.
lower? Okay,
Lower.
all right. And if you don't mind, can you read off the, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit just so you can see it, but the screen, the date that's up there, it's kind of the top left. It's hard to see, I know.
February 5th, that's it.
Okay, what would you, can you read it off for me?
Oh, February 5th, 2025.
All right. I'm gonna play the rest of the video. I'm gonna pause it right there. Okay. Now, that individual you see with the box, is that the individual you just described earlier?
Yes,
Okay. And is that the person you described as that you identified as the defendant?
right.
And was that you exiting the store?
Yes, it is.
All right, now the people are gonna play People's Proposing, so People's Exhibit 2, which is the following. Now, is that you running to, is that the vehicle you just described earlier as the
Yes, it is.
van? And also, did this happen immediately after the video I just showed you before?
Yes, it is.
And that vehicle right there that was parked next to, is that your vehicle that you described? Did you end up speaking, calling police?
Yes, I did.
Okay, did you speak to them?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and what did you tell them?
Told them, yeah, Rob and Jerry's Ace, and I gave him the license plate number.
Did you receive any medical attention for your injuries?
No.
No further questions.
All right, thank you.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you very much for coming in, sir. You may step down. Thank you. And people may call their next witness.
Yes, the people call Officer Connor Harris.
Right after you. Please raise your hand. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony about to give this man the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, thank you. If you could please have a seat and go as close to the microphone as possible, and state and spell your first and last names, please.
First name is Connor, C-O-N-N-O-R, last name Harris, H-A-R-R-I-S.
All right, thank you. You may proceed.
Just want to clarify real quickly, may I see your report, give your report with you?
Still say that.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, permission. He already had it upside down. Very good, thank you.
Just want to do it for just. If I need to refresh his recollection, I just want to show you, this is just his police report. Cool. Your Honor, may I approach him again, just to give it back to him?
Yes, Commissioner.
All right. Can you please restate your name for the record?
Connor Harris,
Where are you employed?
why not police department?
What capacity are you employed there?
I'm a patrol officer.
Were you employed in that capacity on February 5th, 2025?
I was.
And on that day, did your duties take you to the area of Oak Street and 23rd in the city of Wyandotte, in the county of Wayne?
They did.
All right. And were you in uniform that day?
I was.
Was that uniform marked?
It was.
Can you describe those markings?
It is a blue uniform with two patches on each side that the Wyandotte Police Department emblem. And I was wearing the vest that I'm wearing now. And it says police on the front, right here.
All right. And were you in a vehicle that day?
I was.
Was that vehicle marked as well?
It was a fully marked patrol vehicle with overhead lights and markings on both sides.
Okay. And so what were you doing in this location?
I was on routine patrol.
Okay. And what, if anything, while on patrol at this time, did you observe?
I observed a blue van with a window smashed out heading on Oak Street, and it was turning southbound on 23rd.
Okay. And so upon this observation, what did you do?
I found it abnormal. I got behind the vehicle, I ran the license plate, and it came back to the registered owner was deceased.
Can we describe this van so if you recall the model of it?
It was a Dodge Caravan. I'm unaware of the year it was. It was bluish green in color.
All right. And you said the plate, you recall the plate of it?
I believe it was Boyd Victor Sam 352.
You mean Boy Victor Sam, just for clarification, you mean BVS, right?
Correct.
And then you said 352?
Correct.
So you saw this, why did this car stand out to you again?
The back passenger side window was smashed out, which is pretty uncommon for everyday drivers.
And then you said that you said you ran it and it said the owner was deceased, is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, and what, as a police officer, what does this indicate to you?
This just indicated to me that the registered owner isn't the driver, clearly, which just leads me to investigate further to see who is behind the vehicle.
So what did you do next?
I got behind the vehicle, I followed it, I ran the plate, I looked at the lean work. As I got behind the vehicle, it made an abrupt turn quickly into the Walgreens at the corner of Eureka and 23rd. The vehicle quickly parked, one of the first parking spots, and a male passenger immediately hopped out.
Okay, and this, can you describe this passenger that you saw?
White male, he was wearing a black hoodie with a lighter vest underneath.
Okay, and do you recognize him in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to him and identify article of clothing?
He's that gentleman right there wearing the blues.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Mr. Margolis?
So noted.
All right, the court will so note for the record.
Okay, so what did you do after this?
I looped around the parking lot and I notified one of our officers that I was going to make a traffic stop on this car when it left. At this time, simultaneously, we got a call from Downriver Central Dispatch that a male just stole items from the department store in our city and got into a van and fled the scene. Dispatch gave out the license plate of the van, which matched the van that I was behind.
Okay, so what did you do after that?
I looped back around on the 23rd, Maple the 23rd, came back around. I noticed that the male was coming out of the store to get back into the vehicle. I quickly got behind the vehicle, I signaled my rear lights, and I exited the vehicle.
Okay, and at this point, did you make contact with any other officers?
I did. I made contact with Officer Berry prior to the call coming out about the larceny to make my way that I was more than likely going to make a stop on this vehicle.
And so, what happened after that?
I signaled my lights, I exited the vehicle. The male was observed walking back around. He turned around and went back toward the front of the store. I went up to the driver, it was a female. I asked her who the gentleman was that was walking away. She stated he was her child, or she was a babysitter for him. And then that was all she'd give me. I ordered her to stay where she was, not to leave the scene, and I began walking after the male.
And did you ever speak to when you mean walking after male, you mean the defendant, the person you just described?
Correct.
Earlier?
Yep.
Okay, and did you say anything to him?
By the time I walked around the corner where I last seen him, he was already walking northbound away from the store. At this point, I yelled to him to stop. He looked back at me, seen me in my full uniform, and then began running.
Okay, and so what did you do next?
I pursued him on foot, calling out that I was behind the suspect, matching description of the call we just received.
And when you mean calling out, you mean to other officers?
Yep.
Okay.
I radioed to people to start coming my way when I was in a foot pursuit.
And did anyone come to assist?
They did, Officer Berry.
Okay. And so where exactly, so you said you went after him, so what was this, where did this pursuit take you?
I was in the parking lot of the Walgreens. He was walking northbound toward T-Mobile when I told him to stop. And he turned around and seen me. He started running north briefly, and then he went westbound, crossing over 4th Street. And that took us across 4th Street into the Southgate side of the city, near Citizens Bank. Officer Berry was coming southbound down 4th Street with the lights and sirens activated. Pulled up on, he ran behind the bank. We pulled up over the grass. Officer Berry exited the vehicle and gave him orders to stop. I went around the building to try to cut him off, and by the time I got around the building, they were clearing a fence into a residence in the Southgate.
All right, and during this pursuit, did you say anything else to the defendant or no?
The entire time I was chasing him, I was yelling at him to stop.
Okay, do you recall how many times you asked?
4 or 5 times.
Okay, and did he ever comply?
No.
Okay. All right, and so then, once you got to the fence, what happened?
He cleared the fence. At this time, when I got to the fence and cleared it, Officer Berry had already discharged his taser. I observed the taser deployed on the ground, and Officer Berry had his firearm drawn on the defendant and ordered him to the ground.
Okay. All right, and so he was ultimately apprehended?
Yes.
Okay, and so were you able to restrain him alone?
Officer Berry put the handcuffs on him as we approached him and handcuffed him. We observed that the male had something in his mouth. He appeared to be chewing something. And at this point, we gave him orders multiple times to spit out whatever he had in his mouth. We attempted to use control techniques to get him to spit it out, which he did not. And then ultimately, whatever he had in his mouth was swallowed.
No further questions.
I have no questions.
All right, thank you very much for coming in and testifying.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have a good day. All right, people's next witness.
Officer John Berry, he'll be our last witness, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Colpont, I'm sorry, let's go off the record for a moment. What are we doing with your matter?
With,
Jordan?
to review, Your Honor.
Okay,
Yeah, but we're subject on trees.
okay. Counsel,
And compliance.
officer, you can, come on up to the witness stand. I'm just going to, Ally, if that's okay, I'm just going to call the matter, put it on the record, the matter of Jordan Chatham, 231813 A and B.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Your appearance, counsel?
Your Honor, John Goldfarb, P 30758, on behalf of Ms. Chapman.
Thank you. And Jordan, can you please unmute and turn on your camera? Thank you.
So this got pirate.
No, I understand. I know that you recently had surgery and
Yes,
that's
I
why we allowed you to appear via Zoom. And so your name, please?
I can't hear you. Can you repeat that?
What's it? I don't
Yeah,
know.
Mr. Tim, this is nothing related. This is nothing related to your case. It's another matter I'm just throwing in there. So,
Sorry, Your Honor.
that's okay. All right, your name, please, Jordan.
Jordan Chatham?
Okay, so the court, this is the second review. The court had revoked probation on January 9th. The court also had sentenced Jordan to 60 days jail, suspended. Jordan was to resume testing, make payments, provide proof of employment and proof of completing community service. You have been testing negative, you've provided proof of completing 100 hours of community service. You gave a payment. Are you employed?
Yes.
Perfect, very good. How's all that going for you?
It's going good. At first I wasn't taking my probation serious, but now I'm taking it serious and paying the money and stuff.
All right, so let's do this. Let's see how you do over the next couple months, and then at that time, we'll likely close everything out as long as you're continuing the way you're supposed to, okay?
Okay.
So I do apologize for your wait today, very
No
much so.
problem.
I very apologize.
And so is Mr. Goldpaw, and he's very well intentioned, he was just a little bit
Backed up.
backed up today.
I missed
So
it.
let's do, how about we do May 22nd
May 22nd?
at 9:30 a.m.
Okay.
Your Honor,
You're on that day, counsel.
I was just gonna say, Your Honor, I was wondering, I know she made some more payments. Do we know how much is still due on the line?
I do not.
Okay.
We can ask Emily.
It's not important, you know you have to keep paying and get this all paid off, correct, Ms. Chapman?
Correct.
Okay, I thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. And Jordan, I will say this, if you are in compliance with everything, then you can appear via Zoom.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And you
You
said
have a
that
good one.
May
You as
22nd?
well, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sorry about that.
That's quite all right, Your Honor. Take care.
Okay, we're back on the record of the matter of the state of Michigan versus Daniel Tim, 2517 jurisdiction. All right, and so, officer, I'm sorry, if you can please stand up and raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm to testimony about to give this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. All right, thank you. You can please have a seat and state and spell your first and last name. You can adjust the microphone so you don't have to.
John Barry, JOHNBARRY.
All right, thank you. You may proceed, counsel.
Are you employed? Where are you employed?
Wyandotte Police Department.
If you can speak up a little bit, please.
Wyandotte Police Department.
Thank you.
And in what capacity are you employed there?
I'm a patrol officer.
Were you employed in that capacity on February 5th, 2025?
Yes.
And did anything on that day happen that brings us into court today?
Yes.
Were you in uniform that day?
Yes,
Can you describe that uniform for me?
much like the one I'm wearing right now.
Is there any markings on it, anything what it says?
Yes, as badges on the side that say Wyandotte Police Department, I have a badge.
All right, and were you in a vehicle?
Yes, I was in a fully marked patrol vehicle.
And were you alone?
No,
Who were you with?
well, when you say alone, like at that time, I was driving the vehicle alone, yes.
And so you said something happened that day that brings us into court. So can you, just one sentence, tell me how it began?
Dispatch notified us that there was a retail fraud that occurred.
Okay. And so what did you do?
I started to make my way from my location towards the location of the retail fraud.
Okay. And what happened next?
While en route to that, another officer, Officer Harris, told me that he had found the suspect vehicle and he was at a different location other than where the retail fraud occurred. So I started to make my way down 4th Street towards Officer Harris's location.
And so what, if anything, did you observe when you made your way there?
Well, Officer Harris told me that
Objection, Judge. As to what Officer Harris told him.
It's
hearsay. Here's okay.
Your Honor, it's not being used to prove the truth of the matter, sir. It is just showing why, it just shows why the officer did what he did next. It's not being used for the truth.
I think it can be asked what he did next.
Let's do that.
So what did you do
Objection
next?
sustained.
I continued southbound on 4th Street, and then at one point, I observed Officer Harris chasing a suspect across 4th Street, at which point I activated my emergency vehicle lights, which activates the camera and the sirens, and I continued to go towards the suspect that crossed in front of me with Officer Harris chasing behind him.
Okay. And did you get a good look at the individual?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you recognize him in the courtroom today?
yes,
Can you please point to him and identify an article of clothing?
sitting right there in a blue and white shirt underneath.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
Mr. Regolis? Okay, record will reflect.
So after observing this, what did you do next?
The suspect, Mr. Tim, ran behind the Citizens Bank there on 4th Street. I drove up over the curb, got in front of him, cut him off his path to continue running further. I exited my vehicle and I told him to stop, and he did not stop. He ran over a concrete fence behind the business. I continued to go towards him, telling him to stop. I reached over the concrete fence because it was a little bit higher, fired my department issued taser, and it didn't connect. It was like a partial connection. He made a noise.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So let's back up a little bit. So how many command, you spoke to him, you said you gave him command. But did you give more than one command?
I yelled it. I gave him a loud verbal command, stop, stop.
Okay, and did he comply?
No,
Okay, and so where did this pursuit take you?
into a resident, from a business, behind a business, into a resident's backyard in Southgate.
All right, and what took you there? I'm just like, what was that pursuit like?
It was on foot.
Okay. And so then you saw him, and so you said you deployed your taser, so at what point did you deploy your taser?
After he jumped over top of the fence
Okay,
and continued to run away from me.
and so you deployed it, and was it effective? Did it take effect?
It was a partial connection, so
All right, and so what happened after that?
I jumped over the same fence and Mr. Tim ran towards a garage, and at which point I pulled my department issued pistol out and pointed at him and told him stop, put his hands up, and he stopped.
Okay. All right, and so what happened there?
And then at that point, I kept my distance from him until Officer Harris made his way closer to me. And then at that point, I ordered him down on the ground. He went down on the ground. And while he was going down on the ground, I thought I saw him put something in his mouth. We secured him in handcuffs and then attempted to get him to spit what he had in his mouth out of his mouth. And he continued to resist that. And then after that, I asked him what he had swallowed. He said heroin.
The defendant said that to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And was he ultimately arrested?
Yes.
Was taken to the station?
Yes.
No further questions.
I have no questions, Judge.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for coming in. Ms. Zucker, thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, any further witnesses?
None, Your Honor.
Okay, any witnesses, Mr. Margolis?
No, Judge, no witnesses.
Okay. Counsel?
All right, so we can just start with the two R&O counts. I think these are like, so, Your Honor, I mean, here we have two officers who, so we have, it was, let's make sure the name's correct. You had Officer Connor Harris pulled up, who saw this van patrolling. He ran it and he saw this deceased, so then he followed it more. It took him to a Walgreens, and then he got a, through dispatch, the car that he was following, the van that he was following fit the description of the call. And so then he made contact with the vehicle. He saw the defendant who exited to go into the Walgreens, and then he saw him leave and then leave the officers and try to flee from them. He chased him, and then we also have Officer John Berry, who eventually joined in on that chase. We have multiple commands given by both officers during this pursuit, and none of which he complied with, and which affected, which ultimately he was, I think, partially tased, and then he was arrested and apprehended. So here we have we have officers acting lawfully in their duties, giving lawful commands, and then being disregarded and having to do a pursuit and use their taser. So I think the bar has been easily cleared for both R&O counts. So now let's get to the unarmed robbery of the complainant, Mr. Richard Kazika, where, so he's working at the store. You see that he sees the defendant leave with a Milwaukee chainsaw out of the store, something that their store is selling. And so he chases after him to the car, and then he says he's kicked, he's pushed back. So there's physical force being used in this, Your Honor. And the car door is open, and so he's standing here, so the car door is there, so he backs. Had he not moved out of the way, he would have been struck completely by the car door. And the defendant also had, I guess in this case, an accomplice. I don't know, she's not a co-defendant in this yet, but the accomplice then backs up and drives and hits his own car on the way. So here we have a clear larceny which happens. He's fleeing, and so then I know it's not a typical unarmed robbery, Your Honor, where it's through force or threat of force. I give up my item to, I give you my, whatever it was, I give you item, and then they then complete the larceny and take it away. But here, Your Honor, so we have first, let's go to the model criminal jury instructions 18.2 for robbery. So we have first that the defendant used force against or assaulted the complainant. So here the kicking, the shoving, the backing up is clear force in my opinion. And then we second that the defendant did so while they're in the course of committing the larceny. And then there's a special note here. It says in the course of the larceny includes acts that occur in the attempt to commit the larceny, during the commission of the larceny, or during the flight of the larceny. So here he was obviously fleeing from him completing or committing the larceny. And so also I believe he had minor injuries, but he still suffered injuries, and so did his car. So, Your Honor, I do think that the burden of probable cause has been met here for unarmed robbery and the other R&Os, and we think that is a question of fact, a trier fact. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Margolis?
Your Honor, as to the resisting charges, it is a question of fact. As to the unarmed robbery charge, it's just a question of when the larceny occurred and when it ended. So I'll leave that up to this court's discretion at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the court will note, will ask to the two counts of resisting obstructing an officer. The court does find that it's a question of fact that for purposes of probable cause, the prosecution has met its burden, and the court's going to be defending over and counts 2 and 3. The court will note the following as it relates to the unarmed robbery. There was testimony by the complaining witness, the manager at the Jerry's Ace Hardware, that the defendant did walk out with a large box. That was the Milwaukee chainsaw, that the complaining witness then pursued the defendant out of the store. I believe that there is testimony that the complaining witness asked for the property back or asked the defendant what he was doing or something of that nature. And the complaining witness was pursuing the defendant to the vehicle that he went into in an attempt to get the items back. The defendant then used his leg and kicked the complaining witness away so that he could close the door and flee. And then not only did the defendant make contact with the complaining witness with his foot by kicking him, the complaining witness was also struck by the car door. And as the model criminal jury instructions suggest, this was done within one of the three, whether it was during, accessory before the fact, or during the fleeing. The court finds that those elements have been satisfied by a preponderance of by a probable cause standard. The court will also note, as counsel indicated, that it would be to the court to determine at what point the larceny of the item was committed or ended. The court will note as the manager of the building of the store was actively trying to retain the items or retrieve the items back from Mr. Tim. And Mr. Tim was continuing to possess the stolen items, continuing to complete the larceny, as well as physically making contact with the complaining witness. The court does find that the people have met their burden by a probable cause on count one as well. The court's going to bind the defendant over on all three counts. Therefore, the court will note that after examination having been held, it has been found that probable cause exists to believe both that an offense not cognizable by the district court has been committed and that the defendant committed the offense. The defendant is bound over to circuit court. You are to appear in circuit court on March 20th at 9 a.m.
Your Honor, can't change the date. I have to go down there to get another date. I'm gonna be out of the country all next week.
Correct. I cannot change that date. That is for circuit court.
I'll take care of it.
The court will also note, for the record, that Mr. Margolis had mentioned to the court prior to the case being called that he was going to request this court ask Mr. Tim to be remanded or be held at the Wayne County Jail instead of MDOC, as Mr. Tim has multiple cases in multiple jurisdictions, and that it is prohibitive for Mr. Margolis to communicate and effectively represent Mr. Tim if Mr. Tim is being held at the MDOC in Jackson. Would that be accurate, counsel?
Yes, Judge, that is accurate. We are asking that he be held in Wayne County. All his cases that he's being held for are in Wayne County. There's nothing anywhere else, so we would ask for that. And the officer who transported him is here. He indicated to me that he just needs paperwork, or he needs this court to make arrangements with Wayne County, and then I guess he gets the paperwork from Wayne County that he needs to take back to.
Well, the records office would have
I'm sorry,
to.
you identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Officer Lashley with the Department of Corrections.
Thank you.
The records office would have to fax a form stating that Wayne County would take over jurisdiction or custody or whatever. But they close at 4:30, so they're probably closed by now, the records office.
Okay.
So we would have no way of getting that form.
What records office has to do that?
RGC's records office.
Okay, that's Robert G. Cotton.
Nope, that's Charles Egler.
Okay.
What I say? What I say?
RGC.
Yeah, that's Reception Guidance Center.
Oh, reception.
Charles Egler.
Oh, okay.
It would have to be their records office because that's where he's being housed at.
Okay, so I will say this is the first request of its kind that I've heard. So who has to initiate that request?
If you want him to be held over, I guess, from my understanding, I can make a couple phone calls to find out how it would exactly work, if you would like me to quick.
Okay, I don't believe I have any problem doing that. Do the people have any objection one way or the other?
I would think it should be filed by defense, obviously, but I don't have any objection to it.
I'm not exactly sure how this works, but
AOI as well in Wayne County. They're all from Malin Park. He's already has AOI scheduled, and he's required to be present for those AOIs too. So since he's here already is why we're asking for him to remain here.
So you're asking for him to remain, for him to stay here and then just for Wayne County Jail to pick him up today? Or are you asking for?
However it can be done, yes. So I'm asking any way that I can get him to remain here. What the officer is saying though is that since it's past the time period.
if it's past the time period and we can't get a hold of him, I'm assuming he would have to go back. I don't want to say for sure because I'm not exactly sure how it works. I could make a phone call to find out how it exactly works.
If you could,
That
I
would
would
be very
appreciate it.
helpful.
Yeah.
I'm going,
Can
I'm.
Step right up here,
Absolutely,
maybe.
yes.
Put you on, I'll be here.
I'm going to presume that he may have to take the trip back to Jackson and then get transported somehow from Wayne
I
County, by Wayne
understand it would
County
be,
or by Jackson for a number of reasons. One, I don't know who's supposed to prepare some sort of order or request. I don't know who that would be.
that would be your responsibility, Judge.
I've
That's the way it's
never
usually
heard
done.
of that, so I'm not sure exactly what that is. The other thing is that Wayne County doesn't have any sort of information. They'd have to swing by and pick up Mr.
I don't
Sampson
know how
before
they,
that, so.
I don't know how they do it. But
Okay.
either way, we need to, we're gonna need to get it done, whether it's today. I understand the court may be restricted because of time today. But all that this is gonna do, if we can't do it today, which it doesn't look like it, I agree, is just gonna waste additional time, money, court appearances.
Well, what I'm saying, counsel, is once I hear from, Officer Lashley of the NDOC, and we make that phone call, when he tells us what that procedure is, I have no problem doing that tomorrow.
No, I understand that you don't, but he's gonna need to take him back. He's not staying here tonight. So tomorrow isn't gonna do it for him,
Well, it
for
will.
his, for
It
the
will,
officers.
because he'll still end up being transported, whether MDOC transports him to Wayne County or Wayne County goes and picks him up, he'll still get transported, so it will still effectuate what you're trying to accomplish. I just don't know that that's going to happen today.
No, I understand. Otherwise, if you could enter an order still, having him writted back, because we have another court date on the other matters. It's actually April 15th, but we have to be back for that in addition to this court appearance for AOI.
So where,
Which is the same judge that will not do this Judge Baker Robinson will not do an AOI unless he's present. So
Okay.
either he's gotta be present or he's gotta be on Zoom. She did it on Zoom last time.
right,
But knowing that he wants to be brought back, we asked for that.
okay, so let me clarify a couple things, and then I'm gonna get to Officer Lashley. Your client has a case here in the 27th District Court and the 24th District Court. You said he has 4 cases.
Ellen Park.
Are all 3, the balance of the cases originating out of the 24th District Court, or is there yet another court?
No, the other 3 cases are all out of Allen Park. That's correct.
Okay, and he's been bound over on all 3 of those?
Yes, he's already been bound over on all 3. They were all set for the same date, and we had an AOI on, I believe it was Tuesday.
Okay, so now he's been bound over on this one, so there's going to be an AOI next week, and then hopefully they can all be bound.
On this one, which will have to be put off, right, but
Correct.
there'll be an AOI, right.
Okay, and so those are the 4 cases. And he's currently in MDOC custody on a parole violation from an issue out of Macomb County, correct?
No, well, no, it was a Macomb County case that he's on parole for, but he's being held because of these cases. He's not being held for any other reason other than,
No, he has a parole for violating parole from this Macomb County case, correct?
do you have a Macomb County case? Or it's just Wayne County? No, it's just
One
Wayne County.
pro from Canton, the original case, one pro had been Canton, Michigan, Wayne County.
Wayne County, that's right.
I heard something here that said Macomb County, but,
That's where it just was housed at, Macomb County Regional Provider Unit.
oh, there's a temporary housing unit in Macomb County for
Yeah, he
MDOC?
was
Yeah.
he was being held in Macomb County, that's what
Okay.
it was, Judge.
Yeah, there you go, that one.
Okay, Officer Lashley, what is it that you were able to do?
I was not able to get a hold of anybody.
Okay,
So the best bet would be for us to take him back. And then for the proper paperwork to be filed if he wants to be brought back here and for Wayne County to keep.
correct. So here's what I'm thinking, council. I'm thinking that what should happen is Mr. Timpf goes back to MDOC, goes back to Jackson, and then at the AOI, which will be via Zoom, at that point, the request will be made of the circuit court judge that's presiding on all the matters to enter an order to have Mr. Timpf brought back to Wayne County for purposes of planning for defense for the further proceedings.
Or
I believe that's the way that should go.
Or I can let the court know ahead of time tomorrow before I leave.
Whichever it is, but I think that request has to come from circuit court without.
I'll take care of it, but thank you for
All right,
trying anyway.
okay, thank you very much. All right, binding conditions are continued.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
All right, let's go off the record.
Thanks for watching Verdict Watch. New court drama every day. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a case. Leave a comment with your thoughts. We're watching too.